Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video I'll show you how I painted the killer boss from the Dominion box set to a tabletop ready standard with mostly contrast paints. Here we go, here's our killer boss all assembled and primed, ready to go. And for priming I used the Citadel Colour Wraithbone contrast undercoat paint, perfect for this. And if you want to see how I did the base before priming, then check out my How to Base Kruleboyz video, which tells you exactly how I did it. So in this video, we're mostly going to use contrast paints, a few technical paints, and a little bit of dry brushing too. And the brush I'm going to use most of the time in the video is a Kolinsky Synthetic number 2 size, which is great for this kind of thing. Okay, let's get started with the Contrast Basilicanum Grey. And I'm going to use this to go all over the Stormcast Eternal that we can see fallen here. And this guy comes with the sculpt, so this is attached to the base of the Kruleboy killer boss. And the idea with this is I'm going to cover him with some swampy paint later on, and the idea he's fallen and got stuck in that swampy fog. Next we're going to take some snakebite leather, and this is going to go over all the other areas of the base except for the skull. And so I've been quite generous here. You might want to use a bigger brush for this because it's quite a large base. You've got a lot going on here and a lot of area to cover. It's a 40mm base, so pretty big. So yeah, use a bigger brush if you've got one, but I just did it with this brush and that worked fine. Then I took some Skeleton Horde, and this is just going to go over that skull that we can see poking out there, and I'm putting quite a lot of paint on. This dries a lot paler than that snakebite for a real cool skull look. Then it's time to take some base lead pelcher, and I'm going to block in every single part of the model that is metal. This is probably the longest part of this paint process, but it's good to take your time and make sure it's nice and neat and tidy. So I'm putting just one coat over this, and we're also going to put some other effects over the top of the lead belcher later on. So it's just one coat, picking out the helmet there, and then we're also going up to the weaponry, so giving that a nice coat, and then all over the other parts of the metal. So we're just looking around this big mace that he's got here on the chain, then we'll give that a nice coat too. And then just looking all over the model, finding all those parts and giving them one nice generous coat. And I'm just using this straight out of the pot. I'm not wetting it down or anything like that. And so if you wanted to do this with all your other models, a lot of the Kruleboyz are going to be these same colours. So you could certainly batch paint like this. And I'll be doing that for a lot of them, especially the Hobgrots. Next we've got Contrast Wildwood. And this is going to go on the weapon handle. I got a little bit of snakebite on there by mistake, but this is going to cover that up no problem, so I didn't worry about going back to that base colour with some Wraithbone. So I'm just going over it with the Wildwood. Again, just one coat. This is really painting by numbers with contrast paint, and that's why I think it's so good for these kind of projects. And then I'm just going over the little bit of these rushes here, just over those bits at the top, give them a coat as well, just to break it up so it's not all that same colour. Then we'll take some Plaguebearer flesh, and now this is going to go over all the skin areas we can see on the model. So again, take your time with this. We're just blocking it in, and we're going to put another colour over the top of this later on. You really don't have to. You could just go with Plaguebearer flesh, but put a little bit more on it if you wanted to do that. I'm going quite frugal here with the amount of paint I'm putting on. I'm going to use a shade later on that's going to give us all those recesses and bring out all the texture. But if you just wanted to use Plaguebearer flesh, I would say load the brush up a little bit more than I have done here. And then just move the model and make it easy for yourself. So I always position the model so I've got my arms braced on the table, and then I'm not shaking too much. I'm in control, and then I can get all those details painted in nicely. So nice and easy, move that model around, make it easy for yourself. Then it's back to snakebite leather, and this is going to be for some of the leather straps that we can see on the model. So I'm putting a nice amount on here, but notice I'm not flooding it. I'm not using tons and tons of paint. I'm just getting a nice amount on there to give us that nice depth of colour in the recesses. And the contrast paint's so good, it just wants to go in those recesses, and that's what gives us the kind of darker areas and really bring out the texture of the model. You've got lots of options here with all the different brown paints you can use, so just really think about those natural colours that you want on your model. But I think this works nice, and it matches closely to the artwork that comes with the Dominion box set. So he's also got some straps there along his feet, and also some little arm straps as well, so just picking those out. Then I'm going to take some Gore-grunta fur, and I'm going to paint this on the pouch. We'll also be using this later on for the skins, because I wanted to have this nice dark colour all over once I'd painted this on. And this is a really nice colour. It's got an almost orangey brown look, and I think that works really nice in contrast with the green. So those two colours go really nicely together. And then in the base we've got that snakebite leather, which is like a yellowy brown. So all those three I think work really well. Then I took some Agorist Dunes, and I used this to paint all the leather kind of cloth that he's wearing that's all stitched together. But I didn't really like this. It came out a lot paler than I thought it would, and it clashed with the skin. So once I'd done all this all over, I went back, as you'll see later on in the video, with the Gore Grunter fur and did a coat of that. So you could actually leave this stage out, I would say, unless you like the way it looks. But for me, I wanted a lot more contrast there, and I wanted a darker colour against that green. So this didn't really work as I thought, but I've left it in the video because just so you can see every process I go through. It doesn't always go to plan. Often you make mistakes, or a colour you think is going to work doesn't. So, you know, it's not a problem. You just paint over it. Or you can even use Wraithbone, bring it right back to the base paint and go again. Okay, next I took some Blood Angels Red. And this is the colour I'm going to use on all the Kruleboy shields. But I'm not going to make them metallic. I'm going to go straight over the Wraithbone like I'm doing here for the tassels. So I'm going to continue that colour on this model. So I'm picking out all these tassels and giving them a nice coat of this Blood Angels Red. There's another one called Flesh Tearers Red, another contrast paint, which is a bit richer, a bit darker, but I think to match the artwork, I think this is a good paint to go with. Now on this guy, I wanted to paint one of his armor pieces in like a metallic red, so I'm using the same paint to go over the metallic, and that gives us a really nice effect. I really like this technique with the contrast paints, using a Leadbelcher base and then going over it with different contrast paints. Gets you some really awesome metallic looks, and it looks good in this real bright red, but more subtle colours like Guilliman Flesh and things like that give some really nice tones. But here I'm just picking out that little plate he's got on his belt as well, that buckle, but I want the spikes to say silver, so I'm just going to go around those with that red. And again, I'm just thinking it needed to be broken up a little bit on the model. I'm using the artwork as my reference as well, and then so just you can see that red dotted around works really nicely. Then I'm taking some Beotan green, and then I'm going over all the areas of flesh now that I painted previously with the Plague Bearer Flesh, and this is going to really bring out all those recesses now. It's going to give us our shadows, and this is going to really work with the texture of the model to kind of bring it to life. And this is a great recipe that I saw on the Painting Coach's video when he painted some orcs, so I've used it and I think it works great. So shout out to him, a great recipe. Right, now we're taking some Gryph-Charger Grey, and I'm going to go over all the metal with this, and this is going to give us a nice bluey kind of tone to this. You're not going to see it a huge amount, especially later on once we put some other effects and highlights on. But again, it's matching that the colours in the artwork provided with the Dominion box set, and I think it gives it a nice kind of different change up rather than just going Leadbelcher and some highlights. So I think this is a nice touch to do. And so just pick out all those silver areas and give those a coat. We've got that shin guard, we've got the arm guards as well. So just go over the model, make sure you get every little bit that you want, and put it on there. So next is some Nuln Oil shade, and this is going to go over all the metallic areas that I want to really stand out a little bit more, like the chain, around the weapon, things like that. So I'm not going to put this over too much of it, but just pick out those areas where I think there's lots of texture and where I think it would benefit from it. And certainly this shoulder plate here, this really does benefit from the Nuln Oil, and certainly the weapon as well. Putting quite a lot on here, you can see I'm using the texture of the model to wipe that paint off my brush and then push and pull it around until I get it where I want it to be. And that's the thing with all these shades and the contrast paints, just start and end your brush strokes where you want most of the paint to build up, and then just like use the model to get the paint off your brush and guide it into those recesses. And here you can see I'm going over this Stormcast Eternal model at the base as well. This is just going to bring out those recesses a little bit more and give it more of a dark black look, because that's what I'm going to be painting all my Stormcast Eternals with a black theme. Then I took some Agrax Earthshade and I went over all the other swampy areas of the base there, and that's again is going to sink in there, give us a little bit more contrast with the little recesses. It's going to seep in there and leave some of them a little bit, the raised areas a bit highlighted. Then I'm going to take some Nurgle's Rot, a technical paint, and this is like a glossy paint that sets really nicely, and this will give us a great swamp vibe. And I'm putting loads on. You can see there's quite a lot there as I'm putting it on, but when it settles, that'll almost give us like a little pool of slime, and it'll work really great with this model. I was using this Nurgle's Rot to really sell the idea that the Stormcast Eternal has been like killed, he's fell into the swamp and he's been pushed down beneath all that slime, and his body's kind of floating back to the surface as the killer boss is standing on him, using him to get across the battlefield, and so he's covered in all this swampy slime, and this Nurgle's Rot did a great job of that. I think it really came together nicely. Then I took some Typhus Corrosion, another technical paint, and I'm being really gentle with the amount of paint I'm putting on here, hardly any on my brush, and I'm almost just stippling it on, and I'm going to go over all the metal areas again, just really gently, trying not to get the area of the weapon that I want to be looking really shiny and sharp, but all over the other parts, just dabbing it on really gently, so you don't want to put too much on. Some of the other models I've done in the past, I put quite a lot on because I want it to look really gunky and aged metal, but with this I don't want it to look too bad, so you can see just a little bit, and that's going to give a little bit of texture, and it's going to work really nicely. And then when we do some highlighting in a minute, you'll see that it really brings it to life. Next I took that Gore Grunter fur, and then I went over everywhere I painted with the Agorist Dunes paint earlier on. So this is now going to really change it up. You can see it just doesn't work. It's a little bit too yellowy pale. It's not dark enough, and so we really wanted something to contrast that green a little bit more, and also work in and kind of tie in with almost the swampy feel as well. So it's a bit too yellow, so I went over it, and I was really happy. This is a great choice, I think. You could use a darker one. You could use Cygor Brown if you want a really dark leather effect, or even Wildwood, that would work too. But I found this orangey brown just worked really nicely with the green. I think it really set it off. And also you've got that red going on as well. So all those kind of colours together I think work nicely. Then I took some Stormhost Silver layer paint, got my Very Vegan makeup brush, super soft bristles, put them in the paint, and then just load the bristles up, work it into some kitchen towel or paper towel, and then I try and get off as much paint as I can on that kitchen towel, and then we'll be able to do some dry brushing to really get some nice highlights on all our metalwork. So here I'm just being careful at first, because when you first start dry brushing, a lot more of the paint can come off the brush, and so you never know exactly how much is going to come off. So I just go gentle and just build up those layers, and I want a little bit more on that sharp part of the kind of axe there. So I started there because I did want quite a bit of paint to go there to really sell that idea that it's really shiny, and then just along those raised areas I gently brush it, or run my brush along those sharper edges, and then that's really going to catch a nice highlight. And I just found this is a really quick way to do some tabletop ready highlighting. You don't have to go in with a brush and paint each one. You can literally just dry brush and gets it done really quickly. I think you get some nice effects, and combining it with that Typhus Corrosion we did earlier, we get some nice textures, some nice layers. I think it's just a real good quick way to get things going. And then I took my vegan brush again, and I put some blue tack on the end of it, and then I grabbed my model, and then I just fix that to it with the blue tack, and then that's going to give us a nice little turntable so we can paint the rim of the base and have lots of control. And for that we're going to use some Mournfang Brown, and I should put 2 coats on this. I put one on, but I definitely need another one, so I'll go back and do that as you'll see later on in the photos. So just give it 1 coat, let that dry, and then I recommend a second coat, and then you're going to get a nice coverage. And I chose to use brown. I want to sell that swampy idea again, and I think brown just really sets off the miniature, and these are going to contrast so well with the Stormcast. And there we go, we're all finished. There's our Kruleboyz, Killer Boss, all painted to a tabletop ready standard, mostly contrast paint, some technical paints, and a bit of dry brushing, and I was really happy how he turned out. I think I've matched him quite well to the artwork that came with the Dominion box set, and I think this is a great way to go for all my Kruleboyz. And I was really happy with the contrast of the materials. Using that darker brown certainly worked a lot better. And the base, I think that was something I was really pleased with. Nurgle's Rot did the trick, and that came out just as I hoped. And you can see with the metal there, that little bit of dry brushing and Typhus Corrosion I think is a great combo. If you'd like to see how I made the base for all the Kruleboyz, including the Killer Boss, then I've just done a separate video on that. So that's up on the channel already if you'd like to check it out. And I've done the same video for the Stormcast Eternals, for all the miniatures that came from the Dominion box set. I'll be painting them all on the channel as well. But I also do fighter in focus videos for the characters, so I've done a bunch of them already, and I'll be working my way through every fighter from the box, and so you can see how you can use them in not just Age of Sigmar, but also in Warcry. And I'll put a link in the description below where you can download the Warcry fighter cards and abilities for all the Kruleboyz that are included in the Dominion box set, and they're free for you to use for personal use. So yeah, please enjoy it. If you like Warcry and you want to use your Kruleboyz, then that link is there for you. If you like the look of the model and you'd like to pick it up for yourself, then I'll also put links to the Dominion box set, and this is still available. Games Workshop did a great job on this release. You can get it from Games Workshop or online. I'll put some links to a couple of retailers at Wayland Games and Element Games where you can save up to 20% on the box set RRP, and for every sale made through those links I get a small commission, so you're also helping to support the channel too, which is awesome and I really appreciate that, so thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it gave you a good idea how you can get some nice, quick and easy tabletop ready standard miniatures painted in no time using the contrast paints. But I'd love to hear what you think, so let me know in the comment section below. Add your thoughts and feedback, it'd be great to hear from you. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Please like if you like it, subscribe for more videos like this, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to join me next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games. If you like this kind of content and would like to support the channel, then please check out my Patreon page, and thanks to everyone who's joined so far. It's really awesome. We hang out on Discord, talk about the hobby, share ideas and help each other out, and you'll get some perks there that you're not going to find anywhere else. So I'll put a link in the description, and it'd be great to see you there.